Hello everyone, welcome to the JW Review. My name is Mike Felker and this is the weekly podcast where we review Watchtower articles and compare them to what the scriptures teach. This week we will not be reviewing a Watchtower study article. Instead, we're going to discuss the topic of attending meetings and what that has meant for Jehovah's Witnesses in the past 2 years. Now, this is going to be a bit controversial, so it might step on some toes. I'm not trying to offend anyone. I'm really not. I'm just trying to get everyone just to think through a few things with me. And I have to be really careful, too, with what I say, because this topic that we might get into here is something that you can't talk about too overly freely on social media, or you could find yourself getting kicked off, banned, reprimanded, whatever might happen. So I have to be really careful in how I approach this, but hopefully that doesn't dissuade the actual content. Now, what am I talking about? Well, let me kind of give you a bit of a background, and I'll kind of ease my way into this topic. Okay. I've been studying with a Jehovah's Witness, doing the book study for over a year now. Right now, if you're watching this, you'll be able to see this. If you're not watching it, we're looking at the Enjoy Life Forever book. And so if you're doing a study with Jehovah's Witnesses, this is most likely what you're going to be studying. And 2 weeks ago, we were on Lesson 10. The title is, How Can the Meetings of Jehovah's Witnesses Benefit You? So I've been doing this study. We've been doing it via Zoom, not in person. And we got to point number, well, let me find it. I just scrolled past it. Point number 5, effort is required to attend meetings. Now, it was really ironic, perhaps coincidental, maybe not. Maybe it was divinely ordained to be this way. So we were going through this article. But my study conductor, he's been really kind of pushing me to attend the meetings, of course, via Zoom. But this particular week, he was especially trying to offer me the opportunity to come to a Zoom meeting. I think they're on Tuesday nights and Saturday morning, something like that. I haven't attended one yet. I'm not sure if I will, but he's still offering me every week. But one thing he said really struck me, but it struck me. And this is why I think this is maybe a divine appointment, if you will. He said something interesting in the context of this very study article that we were looking at in this publication. He said, Mike, I'm summarizing here, not a direct quote, but summarizing. He said, Mike, I'd really love for you to come to one of our meetings. But he was very careful to say, I'd love for you to come to one of these meetings, although we can't meet in person right now. You can come and join via Zoom. What struck me was that word can't. He said the word can't. We can't attend meetings right now. We can't attend meetings right now, and that just really struck me. Right now, why did that strike me? Well, now he said this just 2 weeks ago. This wasn't he didn't say this. He didn't say this in the spring of 2020, right, or even the fall of 2020. He didn't say this last year. He said this 2 weeks ago, right? 2 weeks ago, we can't attend meetings. I'm thinking to myself, I know Jehovah's Witnesses are not doing meetings in person by and large. I know there's some like test groups, but he said can't. Like there's something that's preventing Jehovah's Witnesses to where even if you wanted to do it, you can't do it. And it just struck me. And it struck me because of point 5 here. It says, effort is required to attend meetings. So let's read this. Consider the example of Jesus' family. To attend a yearly event, they had to walk some 60 miles through mountainous terrain from Nazareth to Jerusalem. And they say here to read Luke 2:39 through 42. It says, "And when his parents had completed everything in accordance with the law of the Lord, they returned to Galilee, to their own city of Nazareth. Now the child continued to grow and become strong, increasing in wisdom, and the favor of God was upon him. His parents went to Jerusalem every year at the feast of the Passover. And when he was 12 years old, they went up there according to the custom of the feast." And that ends verse 42, or the passage they said to read. And they said, and then discuss these questions. Do you think that this effort to Jerusalem took effort? Well, yeah. In fact, every time they went to the synagogue, probably took some effort, right? And then they ask, why might you have to put forth effort to attend meetings? Do you think it's worth it? Why? Now, the implication here is, it's assuming just attending meetings in general, but do you think that meant attending meetings in person? Fellowshipping with other believers? The Bible says that meeting together for worship is very important. Hebrews 10:24 through 25. Let's take a look at that. And let's consider how to encourage one another in love and good deeds, not abandoning our own meeting together, as is the habit of some people, but encouraging one another. And all the more as you see the day drawing near. So why should we attend meetings regularly? Well, it's to encourage one another. Okay, so let's talk about this whole area of not just effort, but let's talk about risk. Risk. Back in the first century, was there a great risk for Jews meeting together? Yeah, probably so. In fact, we saw this account to where Jesus and his family had to walk some 60 miles through mountainous terrain, probably through some wilderness. Was there some significant risk in doing so? Well, yeah. You could have had robbers, right? You could have had robbers. You could have had wild animals that could attack. You could have even had famine, right? There were famines and plagues going around in those days. So great risk was required. Now, was it worth the risk? Was it worth the risk? Getting robbed? Getting attacked by an animal? Catching a contagious disease? Yeah. Those were all great risks. Was it worth it? Was it worth it? Going through any of that risk. Now, they didn't have Zoom meetings back then. I'll grant that, but we're talking about risk at this point. Was it worth the risk? So the answer to that is yes, it was worth the risk. Now, when you fast forward to after the day of Pentecost, and you started to have the starting of the first century church, Christians meeting together, you had the added element of persecution, to where you not only had all the risks of famine and traveling a great distance, whatever it might have been, but you had the risk of persecution because in those days, especially once Nero came to reign, yeah, it was especially hard to meet together. But was it worth the risk? Well, yeah, because meeting together is worth the risk, because you need that encouragement, and you really need that face-to-face encouragement. So you have this element of risk. Okay, so now that we've kind of got that context behind us, I started to ask my study conductor, why can't you meet together right now? Why can't you? Not necessarily why won't you? He didn't say that. He used the word can't. And his answer was, we can't meet together because it's too risky. Now, where did that come from? Well, so I asked him, well, those directions or those commands to not meet together, Of course, you can do so via Zoom. They have been doing that, but we're talking about in person. That came from the top, from the governing body, all the way down to where you have the directives of the governing body, and because of what they said, it's too risky. It's too risky, so you can't meet together because it's too risky. Now, who said? Well, the governing body said. So this is what I really want you to think through, especially if you're one of Jehovah's Witnesses in good standing, and for the most part you believe it, and you believe that you're part of the one true religion, the only true religion on earth. So you have men telling you that it's too risky for you to meet together in person. Now, I know you want to. And the reason I know you want to is because the governing body, or JW Broadcasting, has released videos of showing the test groups that can meet together in limited numbers, but they can still meet together. And you just see tears running down people's faces, embracing each other like it's the first time they've seen each other, right? So I know you want to, but you believe that you can't meet together. Let's look at this 2019 July Watchtower. I think it's page 2, paragraph 8. It says, meetings can help us draw closer to Jehovah. Our attitude toward attending meetings is a good indicator of how successful we will be at dealing with persecution in the future. Notice that. This is not something you can really say via Zoom. Like, attending via Zoom doesn't really give you a good indicator of how you can be dealing with persecution in the future, because, I mean, for the most part, you can use technology to stay pretty under the radar, right? That you're meeting together. But this is talking about in person, and you can even find watchtowers where you see, Jehovah's Witnesses meeting in basements and everything. To where it's so important that they do that in person, despite the fact that you can, through technology, meet via Zoom or some other digital means, right? But there's something about meeting together in person and doing so despite the risk. Why so? If we allow small obstacles to keep us from attending meetings now, what will happen in the future if we have to risk our safety to meet with fellow believers? They're talking about in person, right? On the other hand, if we develop a firm resolve to attend meetings, we will not give in when opposers try to stop us from gathering together. Opposers, that could be governments, right? Governments telling you it's too dangerous to meet together. Does that sound familiar? Now is the time to develop a love for our meetings. When we love to attend meetings, no opposition, not even a government ban, will stop us from obeying God rather than men. So there's a principle behind this. The principle is, we don't care if a government tells us that meeting together is too risky. It doesn't matter if a government tells you that it's too risky. It doesn't. If they tell you it's too dangerous to meet for whatever reason. So you have right now, as Jehovah's Witnesses, the direction of men telling you as a Christian, you cannot meet together with other believers in person to worship God. You can't do that. And if you think that's too strong of a directive, why don't you give it a try? Why don't you, and Jehovah's Witnesses, the ones you know, the ones you worship with, why don't you go meet together in person? Pray before your meeting, open up your Bible, heck, even open up a Watchtower article and study it together. Sing some songs of praise to God. Why don't you do that and see what happens? They're going to tell you, no, you should not be doing that. You should not be doing that. Men are telling you should not be doing that. Why? They are telling you it's too risky to do that. Here's the thing. Why don't you, as a Christian, a follower of Jesus Christ, why can't you make your own risk assessment? Why can't you do that? Now, the churches, they've been doing that since pretty much the beginning. Now, what happened? Now, there's some churches that may not still be meeting together. That's quite possible. But by and large, most of the churches have been meeting together this whole time and allowing you to make your own risk assessment to where you could watch it online, watch the service online and worship while watching it online, or come in person, take whatever precautions you deem necessary. Right? They leave that up to you to do that. Now, back in the very, very early days, the first couple of weeks of the pandemic, I mean, the way we none of us knew really what was going on. The way it seemed is that we're going to have the streets lined up with bodies, and this is going to be like a Monty Python bring out your dead kind of thing. And I don't mean to make light of the situation, but I mean, we were all, everyone, we were all pretty scared. We didn't know what was going to happen. But after, let's just say, a couple of weeks, as more and more data came out and we kind of realized like what we're dealing with, we kind of realized, well, who's at the greatest risk and who's at the less risk of that spectrum, right? And you keep on going, and you had government mandates and all that. But what started to happen was you could make your own risk assessment every single day. You could decide, am I going to go to work today? If you had a company that let you make that choice, if you're going to come to work in person or stay at home, they let you make that choice. If that was the kind of company that you worked for, that's the kind of company I worked for. I did go every day deciding, am I going to go out to work or am I going to stay at home? I could make that risk assessment for myself. Or what about going to get groceries? I could make that risk assessment for myself. Going to church, I can make that risk assessment for myself because I'm a grown adult and I'm not even in an area to where it was like illegal to go shop for groceries or attend church in most of the states. At least, let's just say, come summer of 2021, right? In most places, at least in the United States, you could make your own risk assessments. You might have had to wear a mask, things like that. But you could make your own risk assessment. The government allowed you to do that. But here you are as a Jehovah's Witness. Men are telling you cannot meet in person right now and worship God in person right now. What does that tell you about this religion that you are a part of? That you are forbidden to worship God with other Christians in person. In that one area, you don't have the liberty to do that, but yet you can go to work every day if you want to. You can go grocery shopping. You could go to a sports event. Heck, we just had the Super Bowl in California, of all places, right? One of the most locked down states in the country. Hey, they still met for Super Bowl. You could make that choice to go or not. You can evaluate your own health and decide, you know what, that's too risky or that's not too risky. I can make that choice. You see where I'm going with this? Look at what they say in this paragraph 8 in this Watchtower 2019. When we love to attend meetings, no opposition, not even a government ban, will stop us from obeying God rather than men. Look what it says in Acts chapter 5. But Peter and the apostles answered, we must obey God rather than men. And this is in the midst of persecution. The Jewish leadership said, don't do this. Stop meeting together. Stop talking about this Jesus guy. Right? But they said, we'll obey God rather than men. It's worth the risk. It's worth the risk. Don't you think in the first century, every Christian had the liberty to make their own risk assessment in light of famines that would happen? I just did a word search for famine in the Christian scriptures. Look at Acts 11:28. It said, And one of them, named Agabus, stood up and indicated by the Spirit there would definitely be a severe famine all over the world. And this took place in the reign of Claudius. Yeah, there were famines back then, and really, really bad ones. Don't you think every Christian back then had the liberty to decide whether they were going to take that risk on a given Sunday to meet together? Granted, they didn't have Zoom, but that's not the point. And you know as well as I do, especially if you're a faithful Jehovah's Witness, meeting in Zoom is not the same thing as meeting in person. Why do you think it is in these test kingdom halls where they could meet in person, they embraced each other with tears? They embraced each other with tears that they're now seeing each other face to face to what looks to be the first time, when they had been probably meeting via Zoom this whole time. There's something clearly different about meeting in person, but you can't decide that for yourself. It's illegal within your religion to do that. So, I think I'll wrap it up there. I think I've said enough about this. What do you think about all of this? What do you think about all of this? Am I off base here? Now, I'm not a Jehovah's Witness. I've never been one. So I don't really know what all this is like right now. So just giving you my 2 cents on it. But what do you think? Is any of this a big deal? Do you think the Watchtower is right to do what they're doing? Just give me your thoughts. I genuinely would love to hear from you. Maybe I'm out of line in everything that I'm saying. So this is just a topic that really kind of struck a nerve within me. So I really wanted to talk about it with all of you. And also on top of that, this week's Watchtower study article was just not that interesting. So I thought I would choose a little bit of a more spicy topic like this. So hopefully it was a little bit interesting to you. So anyway, let's wrap it up there. But let me just say this: if you do like what you see, like what you hear, please consider supporting this work. The best way for you to support this is to share this material with someone who needs to hear it. If you're watching this on YouTube, another way you can support this is to hit the like button, the notification button, and the subscribe button. What that really helps to do is to get this material recognized in the algorithm, so you can look over to the column where it shows you recommended videos. So when you like this stuff, that gets pushed up in the algorithm, so people will actually come onto this. And so that's a really, really great way for you to support this. Another way for you to support this, if you'd like, is financially through Patreon. You can become a monthly supporter. Every little bit helps. That helps to keep the lights on, to keep up with the technology, and to improve the quality of this work. If you do want to contact me, of course, you can leave your comments. Like I mentioned, I'd love to hear what you think about this topic. So please leave your comments below on YouTube, or if you're on my website, you can leave comments there. Your comments are not just for me, it's for all these other people who are watching this. So you're not only encouraging me by your comments, you're encouraging others. Even if you disagree with me, that's totally fine. I welcome comments as long as they are constructive and respectful. If you want to contact me directly, you can do that by going to the show notes or the video description. You can email me. We can do a WhatsApp. We can talk on the phone, text, whatever works for you. Especially if you want to get my take on things that I can't talk about as it relates to this topic. I'm an open book on this whole topic, so feel free to contact me directly if you want to hear what I think. I'm happy to share my opinion, and it is just my opinion. So we'll wrap it up there. Hope you have a great week, and we will see you next week. For more information about Jehovah's Witnesses and other topics, please visit michaeljfelker.com. There you can also reach me directly to submit questions or comments to be covered on the JW Review. To subscribe to this podcast, please go to iTunes and search for the JW Review.